So when I went to Georgia, I was able to go and interview these two ladies. Now, these two ladies had already been on the record at the Senate hearing, but they went on the record, their affidavits were read and entered into this case with Garland Favorito from VoterGA, and we talked about this. This is what really has made the judge kind of move forward with the situation. So I was able to go there, do an interview, get a little bit more in-depth about what's going on with the whole situation. So I started a thread, fam. This is my first thread. I hope you're proud of me, where I actually put links into stuff, and I got it going. It says, Georgia Fulton County election update, audit update. I didn't put audit. Election update. Here's the thread. Let's get going. Okay, so number one, I put down Thornbread. This is Bridget Thorne, and she testified that during the early voting session in Fulton County, her job was to print test ballots, in those quotes, test ballots from Fulton County warehouse with other poll workers and Dominion employees. Now, this is something I really didn't understand, because a lot of times, a lot of the ballots have to come, the paper has to come from the contractor. In this particular situation, in the warehouse, you had actual Dominion employees and other poll tech workers printing test ballots. You want to make sure the ballots are good for each district or each section. That will have different people on different ballots for their local races, so you can press test ballots. Number two, the big issue with that is that the test ballots were printed on the same type of paper as the actual ballots that could be read and counted by the tabulation machines. And I took a little clipping of her testimony in her affidavit. Test ballots were printed on the same rolling voter paper, heavy cardstock, and used for actual ballots, making them in every way indistinguishable from live Georgia ballots. This came into play. Now, here's the thing, this can't be argued, right? We know. This is happening. This is being printed out. So as an election integrity activist, well, you can't really say that was used to be counted in one like that, but where's the chain of custody?
Right.
You have to have a chain of custody. This is how many were printed. This is how many are destroyed. This is how many are spoiled. It should be done on a completely different paper. Completely different paper. And it should be done under the supervision. There should be cameras that are done when they're doing this and showing that they're shredded. So once again, you can't say, well, we don't know for sure it's a fact or not. They went into machine, fam. The whole process and the framework needs to be changed so that it couldn't be a problem whatsoever. Different paper, making sure they're shredded.
It doesn't make sense why it would be the same paper unless that was by design, or they're just that dumb, which they're going to claim like, oh, that was just something we overlooked. But come on, dude.
Yeah. Well, the whole mentality is like, well, you're just going to have to trust us. No.
Sorry.
No, there is not just trust us. I can imagine playing a poker game. I had 2 pair. Just trust me. No. No. Everything has to be clean, transparent, trackable. The audience has to see. The people have to see. So I also put the link to her whole affidavit in there too as well. Johnny and Fee, I hope you're proud of me. So the link is there. You can go read the whole affidavit. It's not too long at all. Number 3, there is no chain of custody nor oversight for the printing and shredding of these ballots. Therefore, we don't know how many made it into circulation. Bridget states that she spoiled and ripped ballots due to an egregious amount being accessible to anyone. In other words, she went in the next day, and in the middle, there was a bin, and it's in the video. You can watch more of her thing, and it had all these ballots. She literally took test ballots, but test ballots that look like
regular ballots.
Exactly, that could be counted by the tabulation machines.
Right.
She took out a giant stack, and they were all there, and she started marking them, spoiling them. She did it. Her civic duty as a citizen was to destroy these ballots to make sure they wouldn't get in circulation. And she was even questioned by Dominion employees, like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm spoiling these ballots and I'm ripping them up to make sure they can't go into play over here. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't care. I'm not going to let these go. Finally, number 4, on election day, she never received her 500 emergency ballots for her precinct because she was the head of her precinct. She was the tech poll person, but she was also the head of her precinct, and there was no chain of custody to this day. Where are those ballots? Were they destroyed? Were they lost? Were they spoiled? Were they filled out and counted for a specific candidate? This is important, fam, because all those stuff are check off on a list. This is how many ballots you got, emergency ballots. This is how many were used. This is how many are returned. All that stuff needs to be documented so we know for a fact. And the emergency ballots in Georgia look exactly like the absentee ballots.
Right.
We don't know where they're at. She called a friend who worked a poll near her. That person never got those 400 ballots. So there's no chain of custody. Once again, you don't know where these ballots are, if they're put into circulation. And I know people are like, well, you have no proof that
you
we
have
put
no
in
proof
there.
that they weren't.
Exactly. Can you say that again?
Yeah, you have no proof that they weren't put into circulation. If you have no proof that they were put in there, then you have no proof that they weren't, because you don't have a chain of custody to go back and check.
Yeah.
Like in Peruvian elections, like, again, yes, they destroy the ballots, which I wouldn't do, but I understand the mechanism behind it, so they don't go back and change them or put them here or put them there. But they have the whole tally of all the votes that were the votes that were null, the votes that were taken out, the votes that were like for neither candidate, the votes for each specific candidate in each specific district. They have better chain of custody than we do here. This is why when people try to compare Trump versus that, I'm like, wait a minute, no, her claims are invalid, because you can tell that they went through this whole process very, very clear. Whereas here, you where is the chain of custody?
Just
who had
us,
access
fam.
to these ballots? Like, what's going on here?
Just trust us, fam.
And also, the questioning of the election was completely politicized as a right-left issue, and rather than an issue of, wait a minute, like there's just some inconsistencies here. Can we have a closer look? It was just so politicized, and people got on that train of like, no, we all must stand against Trump because Trump is evil, fascist, orange man. And so that ruined any sort of real, okay, let's look into this. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah. And I think, and I've mentioned it before, after the Democratic Party in Florida, Bruce Spiva, the Democratic lawyer, said, we can go to the back room, pick whoever we want, full of cigar smoke, and that's okay. I think after that moment, the Democratic Party should be required to show their homework on every election, whether it be against Donald Trump.
The Republican Party, too.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, it's the Democratic Party, the establishment.
That's in question.
That's in question. So, I mean, yeah. Number 5, Bridget also reported these irregularities up the chain of command, but for doing so, she was not only snubbed and told she was wrong, but she was terminated by the Fulton County Board of Elections.
Of course she was.
And they sent her a very vague letter on what was going on. I have the article right there that has the letter inside there as well.
I just want to emphasize that she's a veteran election manager, a certified voting technician.
Yep.
So, she's not just like anybody.
She's in software, too, design.
So here's the letter.
Yep. It's there. You want to read it?
No.
Okay, but it's very vague, and it says we factor in all these issues on why we're going to make somebody a poll leader or not, or election worker, and we're just going to not let you do it anymore anytime. That's it. Boom. The letter's in there. You can see it. The decision has been made to not reappoint you in a poll management or other poll positions in Fulton County. Should you have any questions or need additional information, she never got answers. You know what I'm saying? Believe it or not, she never got answers. And there's also some certain situations when she went on to some Zoom chats, like county, city council stuff, and they muted her. Wow. You know what I'm saying? They muted her. We know the mute button.
Yeah, the Democratic establishment loves using the mute button on progressives here.
She was doing this for over 9 years now, and she's no longer allowed to do it anymore.
Wow.
So again goes to number 6. The other lady I interviewed, her name is Susan Voiles. She likes to go by Susie. So I'm going to go back and change all the videos to S-U-Z-I. She even said it in the hearing. Everybody calls me Susie. And I spelt it wrong. But Susan Voiles, who's worked elections for 20 years, fam, testified that during the recount she saw, this is during the recount, and this is the most important, she saw a specific batch of ballots that stood out. The folds were unusual. The marking was different. The paper looked a little off. Guess who the majority of those votes were casted for?
Biden.
Oh, you better believe it. So I put a link to her testimony right there, and pretty much she said most of the ballots had already been handled. They had been written on, and people on the edges were warned. They showed obvious use. However, one batch stood out. It was pristine. Okay, there was a difference in the texture of the paper. It was if they were intended for absentee use but had not been used for that purpose. There was a difference in the feel. The different ballots included a slight depressed pre-fold so they can be easily folded and unfolded for use in scanning machines. There were no markings on the ballots to show where they had come from or where they had been processed. They stood out. And when the link, I don't know if the link I put there, I put her the link to her whole affidavit and that over there. But if you go back and you watch our videos, she talks about the way the bubble was marked. And it looked like a computer mark. And she said there was like a little tail. And they were thinking, Susie and now Bridget start talking. were those the test ballots that were marked by the machine that they were printing to test out that went in there? Maybe they were, but just enough to go, hey, we got to get into this and see what's going on. Number 7, Susie, did you want to say anything about that?
I'm just saying, when you're proving murder, you have to prove murder without beyond reasonable doubt. Like, if you're looking at this through the lens of, like, a case, there is reasonable doubt that something happened here. And it's not beyond reasonable doubt that nothing happened here. There is enough doubt to cast an inspection on this. Even if you can't prove specifically what, there's enough doubt for an investigation. So I just don't understand why, it's such a controversy that we're so much so that we're the only people besides Ben Swan covering these things on the left.
Yeah. Number 7. Did you have anything else to say, Johnny? Anytime you want, jump in. Susie also stated that this election was one of the sloppiest she'd ever worked, and that she received equipment very late, only hours before the election, including ballot marking devices. And in some cases, she never received any valuable equipment at all. Those cards that we talked about, Johnny, remember when we went around and stuff? You're like, where's that card that they're supposed to hand out to show you to use the machines? She was missing a lot of stuff. And she talked about this. She says out of all the elections, and she's been doing this for 20 plus years, it was done so sloppy, so many holes, like it was Swiss cheese. And we've known this before, that they break the system on purpose. They make it so that, the people who are in charge or people who are working these things can't do the job they need to do. And then, therefore, they can always plead ignorance instead of corruption.
Right.
Because that's a lot less of a charge. But yes. Number 8. Susie also had issues with her software on the electric poll pads. Now, this is election day. She contacted her manager. The manager contacted her, put her in contact with a Dominion employee that was out of state. He was in Colorado, okay, via phone. And she's like, well, I'm having problems with these poll pads. And he was able to fix them remotely. And then she goes, oh, really? Well, here's the problems with my BMDs. Can you fix them? And he was messing with the BMDs remotely. They're in Georgia, and they're fixing them in Colorado. So where's the air gap? There's no electronical stuff. Remember New Hampshire, Johnny? Oh, there's no internet access in these things. Wrong. One other thing that happened over here that I didn't put in there because I didn't have the pictures. She was let go. When this was happening, she was barking back. She was let go. Somebody else took over her poll station. So she spoke to somebody, and she's like, there's an internet. And they're like, listen, go around to the other poll spots and see if they have internet. She said she went around with a friend in Fulton County to other polling spots, went by the polling location, turned off her phone, her Wi-Fi, turned it back on, and grabbed a signal saying that there was internet coming from that place. She then took a screenshot. I didn't put that up because I haven't got the screenshots. I don't know if that's really a way to prove if there's internet or not, Johnny. But she said she went and did that stuff. So that's just something, food for thought. It's in the video that we have. You can decide for yourself. I don't know if that's a way to actually know if internet was coming from those tabulation machines, but they did that, and they said it was happening often, that there seemed to be internet everywhere. However, there is her testimony of her talking to the Dominion worker and him fixing stuff remotely.
Right.
That's not allowed.
Which shows
that's illegal. Illegal. Just like the ballots underneath the table. Garland Favorito talks about it all the time. He goes, first of all, ballot boxes are not allowed to be out under tables.
Yeah.
And secondly, a table with a
cloth.
apron, a cloth over it. Are you kidding me? And you have all these liberals and neo-progressives. They were just doing their job. And the Secretary of State going, oh my God, we missed a batch. Now we got to count these. Wrong. They should have never been there to begin with. Nobody knows where they come from. They're not allowed to be under a table. Nevertheless, a table with a cloth over it.
That's what
so
happens
you can't see it.
when you don't have a chain of custody. That's what happens. In Peru, did they do mail-in ballots for COVID? No, they didn't. They didn't do that. Like, did they say, no, you can vote without IDs? No, they make everybody have a fucking ID. I'm just saying, if you don't want IDs, find a better way to have a chain of custody. Because right now, we have zero chain of custody. We have zero security. There's no security. These Democrats are complaining about security, this and that. They have never paid attention to the chain of custody or security. Not once. And you can tell in the way these elections were handled, especially this most recent one where they manipulated the COVID factor, both in the primary and in the general. And of course, in the primary, it ended up hurting and literally ending the campaign of Bernie Sanders. And in the general, Well, it ended up causing this fiasco where now you have over half of America who thinks that this election is not valid and who will continue thinking that and who will continue not believing in the system, which is fine with me because the system is obviously rigged in one way or another. And I think just the fact that we can't even talk about this without getting name called as some sort of right wingers is insane to me.
Getting
It's
demonetized,
insane.
too.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
it's just.
I don't know why, fam, though, people think that on the left they can just scream and yell and say, well, just accept the results. What's wrong with you? What are you, stupid? Like, they're still having that mentality. Even, like, the chain of custody now in the Maricopa audit, now all of a sudden the Democrats care about the chain of custody. The same
yeah.
people pushing for ballot harvesting, which completely eliminates the chain of custody. Some dude can go rolling around, grabbing ballots here or there and just walk them in. No chain of custody. I don't know where he got them from. Don't know they were from.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And
In
does
some
it
states, it's
happen? We
completely
don't know.
illegal.
We don't know if it happens or not. But the fact is, there's no security telling me that it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Number 9, Susie was also given the boot and terminated by Fulton County Board of Elections for working any future elections, fam, because she refused to stay silent on multiple inaccuracies she saw.
Wow.
And once again, now both these ladies are conservative, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I asked them that. I got that out there. I wanted to make sure our audience knew what was what. However, I still believe that they were honestly really trying to do these elections. They've been working them for a long time, you know what I'm saying? And they believe in fair elections, you know what I'm saying? It's something sacred to them, you know what I'm saying? It should be something sacred to a lot of people. These are our elections. One person, one vote. You know what I'm saying? That means everything. And even the fact that, you know, if they can lose to a socialist like Bernie Sanders, they deal with it. They just want a fair race. You know what I'm saying? They also want a fair race because they understand that the Democrats are putting forth these idiots like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and they should be able to wipe the floor with them because, I mean, they're just friggin' awful, and mitigating damage assholes that still want to still echo that stuff, you know what I'm saying? So they believe that they're going to win these things, but at the end of the day, they want clean, fair, transparent elections, and I can't disagree with them because it's something that we should all want, you know what I'm saying? It's one of the most important things.
Right. It shouldn't be a hyper-partisan thing.
It shouldn't be. It should be nonpartisan.
Yeah.
Number 10, after hearing these testimonies on the record, the final testimony heard by paper authentication experts and election integrity experts. We did this. The woman who used to work for DARPA, the guy who's been doing elections for a long time, granted an audit conducted by VoterGA, which is Garland Favorito. And then number 11, I have the press release right there. If you want to put it up, it talks about what they have been granted. We had this last time. So now pretty much they are granted an audit. Now this is not the body like in Arizona. It was the state Senate who said, no, we're going to take control of everything because we're the state Senate. We have rights to go oversee this at the end of the day. When it comes to this situation, and this is something that's great, when you talk about individuals going out there, enforcing things, taking actions on the streets, going around the electoral process, that's what you can do with these individual groups. You can have FOIA requests. You could take these to judges. You could sue individually. You don't need you don't need to get a politician behind you or a body behind you. You can do it yourself. And that's what Garland Favorito has been able to do with VoterGA and his whole, these are a volunteers group. These are volunteers here, so they're doing it because they have stake in the game. One thing I didn't point out as I was doing the interviews with these two young ladies was that the fact is that they had this other consulting group, not consulting group, but they exported out the work, right? You know what I'm saying? To this other group for these people to come on in. Do you remember when we were seeing the provisional ballot people? They didn't care, right?
Yeah.
It was like they were just hired. Even the people when we saw Johnny, temp agencies.
Yeah,
Thank
they
you.
were temp agencies.
These temp agencies, and I don't want to mention the temp agencies because I don't want to get sued by them and stuff, but when you have these temp agencies, why would we have temp agencies work for elections? You know you're going to find citizens on both sides of the aisle that are going to come in with stake in the game and want to do these things fair, but yet they do it because they want these people who really don't care about shit what's going on. Therefore, there could be more mistakes, and you can plead ignorance.
Imagine if in Peru they hired temp agencies to do their elections. That does not happen there.
So some person who's just looking for a paycheck that doesn't really care, what do I got to go do? We've seen these temp agencies when they do at the mail-in facility or the provisional, they don't care. They have no skin in the game. And that's something that's going on, and we need to really change it. So that's my thread, fam. Did I do a good job with my thread?
That was a great job, fam.
See, I can do well. Guys, by the way, we have about 28 people over on the Rokfin. We have,
we need more.
We need more.
Come on,
we have
guys.
200 people plus over on the YouTubes. We love you all. Get on over there. All right, now, Really quickly, Maricopa, right? That audit is still going on. It's almost near the end. We've been following it, but what's been going on is awesome. There's been delegates coming in from other states. Pennsylvania led the way. Another Italian guy, Mastorino, right? His name is Douglas Mastorino. He led a delegation that went over to Arizona. They did this first, and they went through the whole spiel. Our boy Sonny Borelli was there from the state senate. They were able to walk them through, show them what's going on, preparing them to say, okay, this is the drawback you're going to have from your bodies of legislation on the other side. They're going to push back for you. Chain of custody, privacy of voters. So they gave them the whole layout and showed them what to do and how to do this thing. However, there's going to be pushback, but I know, and I know Johnny knows, and he'll even say this particular type of counting with the lazy Susans and all this other things, the way they break them up into different colored groups, it's amazing. It's awesome. And we need to do this for every single election.
Right.
Those three people in the lazy Susans are not allowed to communicate to each other. They have to mark what they see, and at the end, they compare their notes and whatnot. They go through all the ballots, the way they do it, the authentication of the ballots. This is important. This is to make sure our elections are straight. And to make sure our elections are good. And we'll go on to talk about the fact that this is not about going back and putting Donald Trump in office. This is about making sure our elections are straight moving forward. So here I'm going to really quick read of this, Johnny, real quick from the Clarion News. Lawmakers from multiple states have visited the 2020 election audit in Arizona's largest county in recent days, with more visits planned. Delegations from Pennsylvania, the other day Georgia, and Alaska were given tours on the Veterans Memorial Coliseum, where the audit is taking place in Phoenix. Michael McDonald, the Nevada Republican Party chairman, went to the venue to see what was happening, as did others from Colorado, Virginia. Senator Amanda Chase, and Republican, is expected to visit on Thursday. That was yesterday. So they have people coming from all around, fam, to look at this audit to say, this is the standard. This is the standard now for audits that should be done. Look how we're doing it. Look how everything we're doing, and you should kind of implement this. They might implement it now. They might implement it for the future. But they're showing it's just a revolving door. Ken Bennett from Arizona Secretary of State told the Epoch Times. Bennett is the Arizona state's liaison for the audit. Lawmakers visiting the audit were shown how workers are hand counting the nearly 2.1 million ballots cast in the Maricopa County last year, in addition to evaluating the paper for abnormalities like mail-in ballots not having folds. They learned about the audit procedures, like how the ballots are being examined and the chain of custody processes. In other words, they're making sure that they understand, guys, listen, if you're going to do this audit, and this comes back to Brakey. Brakey warned them and told them, guys, if you do start doing stuff and you start bringing the chain of custody and you start exposing people's votes and their names and their privacy, the FBI is going to come in and shut this shit down. So know how to do it, and that's why it's important they go to know how to do this thing. Many said they hope to take what they learned back to their states to order a similar audit there.
Wow. So
it's big. And I have it over here. The next one, Arizona audit is almost done. So, fam, they've got 80% audit update. 80% of the ballots are now counted. Voter integrity is a priority in America, and we are proud that Arizona is leading the way. The audit continues. Remember the whole time, the audit continues. The audit continues. Trying to shut these guys down, trying to stop them. But they keep going forward. When you're in hell, just keep going forward. But
and it's worth mentioning that Brakey is very involved, and he's like what would be considered a progressive Democrat. So.
Oh, yeah, he is a progressive Democrat. He takes too much guff. Now, Johnny, I want to play this video here. It's a video of a video, and it's a guy who's going to push back a little bit. It's the local channel. This particular channel, it's called Arizona Conservative News. They were Prescott News. They were shut down by YouTube just immediately without giving rhyme or reason. They had like 40,000 subscribers, if not close to 50,000, and they were just shut down. They are a conservative leaning, kind of patriot style channel. I don't agree with a lot of things they say, but the right to say it they should have. And the fact that they were shut down is kind of messed up. Now, this is Ken Bennett. We've met Ken Bennett. You've interviewed him. I've interviewed him. Johnny's talked to him and stuff. He's running things here. I think it's so important for what he says in the beginning of this interview here. And I think a lot of QAnoners need to listen and watch this and stuff, because you're starting to aggravate me on the Arizona chat with the trust the process kind of shit. This is about getting our election straight, so we should stop listening to fairy tales and think about what's going on. Even the gentleman I interviewed, Josh Bernstein, we strongly disagree on this. He feels it's going to be a domino effect and it's going to fail, and Sidney Powell's words that Donald Trump's going to be put back in is going to happen. A lot of
Sorry.
people feel that way. I know.
I that's ridiculous.
It's not
dude.
gonna happen,
It
guys.
ruins the credibility of a lot of the issues of exposing the corruption in the elections. It ruins the credibility of like people being non-biased. This is about the elections going forward. This shouldn't be about your preference for Donald Trump at all.
And Ken Bennett talks about that right here. Watch what he says, and he's a conservative. Here we go.
Joining me now is the Senate's point man for the election audit. He's the former Secretary of State here in Arizona, Ken Bennett. Ken, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. None of this is going to overturn the election. I mean, it has been certified in the Senate and the House. It is done. It is a fait accompli. Joe Biden is the president, and nothing you guys do will change that.
That's correct. And everyone needs to understand that. And I think that's why the Senate was able to get a Maricopa Superior Court judge to rule in favor of allowing them to subpoena the election materials, not to go backwards, but to go forward and see if there's anything related to elections in Arizona that we need to improve to make sure that people aren't lurching back and forth every 4 years to accusing the other side of having stolen the election. And that was a very important part of why the Senate did this, not to go backwards, but to make sure Arizonans have confidence in their elections going forward.
Now, the election, after the election was over, there were recounts done, right? That is something that happens after every election.
A very small recount. Every county is supposed to hand count between 1% and 2% of the ballots. Maricopa chose the lowest number, and Maricopa hand counted about 8,000 of the 2.1 million ballots that were hand counted or that were counted in the election. They only counted 8,000, and the other 2.1 million ballots were never looked at again. And they also talked about these other 2 audits that they had. That was 2 companies that came in and looked at the machines to make sure that there wasn't any evidence that they'd been tampered with or were connected to the internet. But those second and third audits, as they call them, they weren't really audits, they're called logic and accuracy tests on the equipment. But those second and third audits, if you want to call them that, did not look at one single ballot.
Now, my understanding is that there is a photograph on the Dominion machines. There is a photograph taken, an image taken of every ballot cast. Is that correct?
That is.
Why wouldn't we have just taken those images, which you would think are foolproof, and have a company count those up and look at those instead of doing this? And we'll show the video of it. I think it's video number 12, and having this bizarre Lazy Susan thing going on at Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Why not just take the original work and match it up?
Well, there's always wonder whether any election company's equipment captures the images correctly, or is there anything messing with how they captured the images, and then the tabulation of the votes from those images. So I think the Senate wanted to kind of get a hand count, a human confirmation as to whether the votes on the actual ballots themselves match up to the votes that the Dominion machines counted from the images that they took as they were scanned through those machines. We also, though, are considering just what you described, which would be a second tabulation of the Dominion images. And if we do that with a company completely independent from the current auditors, we would really have 3 tabulations. 1, the Dominion tabulation in November. 2, the hand count that they're doing at the Coliseum right now. And 3 would be an independent second tabulation of the votes from the images that Dominion captured.
Here you go, Johnny.
That was a really succinct and amazing explanation of everything.
He's learning, right?
Oh yeah, that was perfect.
He was pretty good, but now he's great.
Yeah.
I mean, now he's been beat up so much.
Yep.
He's been taking so much flack because he's the point man here. So everybody's been attacking him. The establishment media has been attacking him from the mainstream. The local minor league establishment media, those donkeys, are attacking him and whatnot.
Right.
But now he knows how to explain it. And the first statement was great off the bat. This is not about going back. It's not retroactive and putting in Donald Trump because we found out what's going on.
Yeah.
It's about changing the future of our language. He even said we got to go forward, not back.
Yeah, exactly. That was that's and he needs to people need to hear that more. People need to understand that this isn't about that. Like, especially the people who are trying to still throw in that QAnon BS, like all, this Donald Trump's going to come back, a domino effect and blah, blah, blah. Like, it just ruins anything like that you could find. And also I liked how he described the three different types of tabulations you would have, and what he talked about why they're doing it this way. And it's just, that's it, guys. That's basically it. And I think more people need to emulate like what exactly they're trying to do in Arizona, because it's honestly like what they're trying to do is a good effort. Like what will happen, we don't know, but what they're trying to do is to really get to the bottom of what happened and all the inconsistencies and all the suspicions and all of that by discounting every possibility. And that's kind of what our friend was saying, before, like, it's not about any partisanship. It's about finding the truth. And I just, everything that anchor was like, well, why the lazy Susans and all of that? He was just like, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. Even the whole, didn't we already have a recount kind of thing?
And like, the percentage.
Like, he's
the
like, we
sample
counted
size.
8,000 ballots, you know what I'm saying? And the other tests were logic and accuracy tests. What we talked, Johnny, remember when we showed up for the logic and accuracy test over here? And it's like they were already started. Nobody was there. I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing?
Yeah,
it's like, oh, this is a logic and accuracy test. All right, where's the Smartmatic representative here? Oh, we don't have them here. Okay, like, what are you guys doing? And they're going to pass that off. We were waiting in the lobby for 20 minutes, and by the time we got in, they were already 15 minutes into it. I'm like, why didn't you guys let us in early? Like, we're almost done. And like, oh, and they're going to pass that off as another audit. And they didn't want anybody there to see it. But that's the thing. We have to combat these things. I think that the Republicans in Arizona are doing a great job. Everybody from Sonny Borelli, Karen Pham, Ken Bennett, who used to be the Elwood Secretary of State and stuff, and Mark Fincham. And Mark Fincham is going to be running for Secretary of State. This is like the new trend, fam. Secretary of States now, people who are running in areas that are red, blue, purple, whatever you want to call them, are going to be running on a platform of election integrity. This is Mark Fincham's Arizona Ballot Election Integrity Project. Let's talk about the good things here, because Johnny even said after this, he's like, why is anybody going to say that that's wrong when he's saying what should be done? But he is missing one thing. We'll talk about it after. But take a look at our good friend Mark Fincham. He sent this to me personally, and let's take a look at it.
Hi, this is Arizona Representative Mark Fincham, candidate for Secretary of State. I'd like to talk to you for a moment about a project we've been working on at the Capitol called the Arizona Ballot Integrity Project. It's a full-spectrum transparency project to give Arizona voters confidence in their election. Ballot integrity is part of the election process. Ballot integrity relies on fraud countermeasures. That's to keep the fakes out of the system. Election integrity relies on full-spectrum transparency. Putting sunshine on something is a great disinfectant. We can have full-spectrum transparency by making every ballot image a public record, available to everyone all the time. There's no reason not to do this. The U.S. Treasury relies on currency-grade fraud countermeasures, meaning they have UV light reactive bills. From the dollar bill to the 5 to the 10, even to the 100. You'll notice stripes, fluorescence, all manner of countermeasures. And after all, aren't our ballots just as valuable as our money? This is an Arizona ballot replica. But there's been a change. And you'll notice that this is the future state of our ballots. A watermark that is also UV light reactive. But there's more. A QR code in the upper left-hand corner will give every ballot a unique voter number. Only the voter will know that number. You can track your ballot through the entire system to ensure that your ballot is counted and that it was counted the way you cast it. At the same time, you'll be able to look at your ballot in future days online after it's been tabulated and stored on the system. Now let's talk about the microprint. You notice waves on the watermark. You notice the valid word. But what you might not have seen is the 500 micron printing that says Arizona State. We're not endorsing ASU. It's simply the state of Arizona. You'll also notice a ballot hologram. This is translucent mylar on the lower left-hand corner of the ballot. and it's built into the holographic watermark. So how much will all this cost? To have cost-effective ballot security, voter privacy protected, public record protection, a trust but verify system that supports ballot integrity, voter integrity, and election integrity. That's right, 25 cents a ballot. By making every ballot image available to everybody all the time, we come close to making the forensic audit obsolete. Voting should not be a question mark. Voting should be in secret, but the counting should never be. Let's put innovation to work for the people. My name is Mark Fincham, and I ask for your vote.
Wow.
That's the trend, fam. Now we're going to have secretaries of states kind of running on election integrity. And what he did was he took this QAnon conspiracy. I don't know if it was necessarily QAnon, but it was a conspiracy out there that Donald Trump got all the paper to the Department of Defense or the Army or whatever, and they put watermarks on the ballots, and now we're going to be able to tell if these ballots are real or fugazi. Well, what he did was, and Mark is one of those guys who's a very practical guy. He even said, I don't believe that Sharpie Gate is going to produce a lot of stuff, because he heard about Sharpie Gate and all that stuff in Arizona, where a lot of ballots were marked with a Sharpie and whatnot. He said, well, you know what? I don't know if that happens, but that's a great idea. Let's do it for the future. So we've taken that idea and say, okay, I'm not going to put any weight or water into the fact that it could have been done with what they're saying, but we're going to do that for the future now.
Yeah.
So now we'll protect our ballots. So now we will do that, and then for the future, we'll know if it's a real ballot or a fake ballot. We'll be able to identify it. I mean, there are some ways that can get out if somebody gets the way the watermark's out there and sells that information, whatnot. Along with the QR code, though, together, he's kind of doubling it up to secure the ballots to make sure no fake ballots can get into the system.
Yeah, no, it's very clear cut and concise. I really like it. He brings up a great point. He's like, our ballots are just as valuable as our money, right? So
yeah.
If not more valuable.
And also the ballot images, that's a Breaky thing. Breaky's been saying this for a long time. Let's put the ballot images online.
Ad nauseum, he's been talking about.
Let's put it on there. So now you can count it yourself.
You can count it yourself from your house. He's been saying this, and that's a Democrat saying that. I'm reemphasizing that point because while Fincham is a Republican, Breaky's a Democrat, and they're advocating for the same thing.
Yeah.
It's at the end of the day, it's just so people have believe that their vote counts, and so they know their vote counts. Not even just believe, so they know.
Yeah.
At this point, none of us think our elections aren't fair. We're telling you every day they're not, and this just goes to show you how. And if he does that, I think the Democrats, of course, are going to run on. Republicans are just throwing away, suppressing everybody's vote, and blah, 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 blah. You can see what they're doing with what the legislation they're pushing. But Republicans are going to run on security and chain of custody and all of that. And what I'm telling you is we lack that. Yeah. So whether or not I agree with the Republicans' ideology, I don't agree with 90-something% of it. Yeah. But what I do agree with is on election security and transparency, because we don't have it. And a lot of the establishment Democrats are trying to make this only about voter suppression, which should be addressed, by the way. Yeah. But this must also be addressed. Right now, we have way more facility in voting and zero security, essentially. Yeah. So how can I disagree with what he's saying? I can't disagree. That was very, very nice and succinct and just detailed.
And a couple things I want to point out. He's mentioned those two things: putting the ballot images online, which is part of the counting process, making sure the ballot has integrity. But he missed one thing, fam. Mm-hmm. One thing that's important, I think, more than anything that should be involved in that, and that is what? Getting rid of proprietary software.
Exactly.
You have to talk about this. I hope Mark Fincham comes back to the table. I busted Sonny Borelli's balls about this. Sonny, you gotta. I mean, whether it be Dominion, ES&S, and that's the one thing that the Patriots are getting too caught up on is Dominion. It's not just Dominion. It's ES&S, Smartmatic, the Hearts program. They all have this proprietary software. They all have the fraction magic feature. Remember when I was talking with Benny Smith? I said, Benny, you hear about this hammer and scorecard? We're like, oh, that's cute. We called that fraction magic years ago. You know what I'm saying? So it was always progressives doing this. Now it's the Patriots involved, and it's a shame that the Democrats have gone away. Shahid Buttar put out something the other day about if the mainstream media had done this and exposed and interviewed Nancy Pelosi's, her policies and all this stuff. My man, you got to look at how the votes are being counted, because if this stuff is coming into play, watch how your grassroots candidates on the left on the left will be much more closer than you think. Because when they control this process, when everything is corporatized between the making of the ballots, the counting of the ballots, the machines we use, you take that away from that and you make it transparent, forget about it. These grassroots candidates are going to do a lot more. And I'm very upset that a lot of grassroots candidates aren't talking about this because this is what's sniping them right in the ass.
They call it the big lie. They say make it about Trump. It's so counterproductive to anything you're trying to achieve. So go right ahead, but you're not going to get any support from a lot of us who are just done with a duopoly.
Yeah, and the fact is that we started off, when we were starting off our election thing, we were all about fighting back against the suppression. All about fighting back, about putting people of color into fucking provisional ballots.
Because that happens.
There's plenty of proof, and we were there, and it happened in the primary. They were disenfranchising votes. General comes, they're clustering votes, getting more votes. Right. There's ways to cheat an election, and whether we have 100% proof, which we don't because we can't look under the hood, we have to be able to look under the hood, and we have to change it. Yep. There is. There's plenty of suspicion, and like I said, when the Democratic lawyers said they can vote for whoever they want in the back room, they should be, they should have to always be, what's the word I'm looking for?
Transparent.
They have to be forced to show their homework. Yep. I don't know. You know, it's just one of those things. I really wish we would get our heads out of our ass on this thing. The TDS is really pushing us back.
Yeah, and there's no room for that. He's fucking gone. So stop.
Gone. Johnny, what do you got there? Nothing? You got something?
There's some shit brewing in New Hampshire. Somebody
of course.
In the chat said something about
it. Yep. Well, I got to speak to her today. We're supposed to get on the horn today. The woman down there that Breaky hooked me up with, her name is, last name is Sumner. I think it's Debbie Sumner. She's got the whole insight to what's going on, guys. We might have to get our butts to New Hampshire because things heating up there.
There's New Hampshire. You saw our coverage there in New Hampshire where the election official told us that there's SIM cards in the ballot counting machine.
Yep.
So there's that, and then I just saw an article yesterday about something in Santa Barbara. All these cases are popping up around the country. It's crazy.
Can I tell you something too, Johnny? They're not going away. No. So the Democrats can stomp their feet and cry and say, you're being stupid, this is conspiracy theory shit. They're not going away. You got 22 months by federal law that they have to hold on to all the materials. So guess what? These Republican legislations, they're not going to stop, fam. They're not going to stop, and you're going to see more audits, and you're going to see more shit coming through. Once again, it's not about going back and putting Donald Trump in the White House. It's about getting our election straight for the future, and you should be aboard with this because it's going to hurt you if you don't do this. If you don't do this, it's going to hurt you. Do you hear me? Your grassroots candidates will never, ever win. And it was that moment on the Capitol about 500 yards away from the steps when that dude was asking us what we're all about. And I'm like, we're all about election integrity. We started in 2016 hardcore when they said they could pick whoever they want. He looked me in the eye and he goes, you know what? We didn't say shit when that happened. And I'm sorry because it came back to bite him in the ass because they were silent about it. We can no longer be silent about this, ladies and gentlemen. We got to get this shit straight. And that's for our grassroots candidates like our Angelica Duenas, like our Shahid Battars, like our Raji Robs. All these people would have a better chance of winning if they weren't controlled, these elections, by corporate entities. And the corporate entities are close with the establishment. Proprietary software, proprietary ownership. We can't know who owns the stuff in our elections. Are you serious, ladies and gentlemen? Come on.
We live in a fucking cartoon.